Hi there, and welcome to 7 p.m. It's the UK time, 7 p.m. by the way, and it is the live stream question and answer Ask a Carnivore. Thank you. We have uh, Evelyn, who is a new member. Welcome on board. I was just waiting for Richard Smith, the UK's top nutritionist, to arrive. He's going to be doing it on his phone today. So it might be a bit tricky for him to get on bang on 7 o'clock. So if I'm sounding a little bit skeptical, that's because we all know what mobile technology is like. It's not really the most reliable thing in the world, is it? But anyway, if you've got questions, that would be fantastic. If you want to post them in the comments, that would be great too. But we're currently just waiting for, like I say, Richard. So here we are. It's unusual to not have any questions in the lineup as well, and nobody viewing just quite yet. So maybe I've started a little bit early, and and I've caught people out maybe. Anyway, I hope you had a good week. Last week was particularly busy on this channel with so many questions. One of the things that constantly comes up is about protein, eating too much protein, and whether it to the oak hearts there, and we've got a question straight away. But I just want to quickly recap on when people think that steak turns to cake. Basically, when does protein become sugar in the blood? Well, it never directly does that. It doesn't actually do that, really. What actually happens is when you eat protein, and we know this from studies where they've labeled the amino acids to follow them, it doesn't become part of the glucose in your bloodstream. And to be honest, if you eat steak and your blood glucose goes up immediately, there's no mechanism where that steak is going to go straight into the bloodstream. There's no way that's going to happen. So what actually happens is the body releases glucagon, and that just puts your blood glucose up. So Phil Richardson saying he's added a question before the start, but it's gone now. Phil, I'm really sorry about that. I don't know why that is. I really have no idea why that is. And I think I haven't got a message from Richard yet. If I'm sounding a little bit on the back foot, it's because he normally, when he says to me he's going to turn up on his phone, he does normally turn up. But anyway, he's not here at the moment. Right. So what we shall do is we shall press on. But I'm wondering if I should wait, because the questions might be something that you want Richard to answer. I don't really know what to do here. So I've just got a message from him. I think that noise is Richard. Yes, are we going live, dude? Bear with me. Yes, I am live. Yes. So I don't know what's happened there. Let's rewind and let's see if we can get him to come in to the live stream. I can't see him backstage. Can everyone bear with me 1 second while I just get Richard? I think he's got the wrong link, which is quite interesting. So let me just do this. So let me do it. There's the link. Sorry, folks. Talk amongst yourself for a second. Let me do that. Maybe I went on the wrong link, in which case I'm in trouble. But anyway, right. We've got questions here, so I must be on the right link. That's what I'm thinking. So I think it might be Rich has just made a mistake. Anyways, here he is. That's great. That's great. Let's get him on, and then we'll get into the questions. Okay, here we go. Add to the stage. Here he is. Oh, I like that fancy pants background. That's really jazzy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you see me okay?
Yeah. I don't know what happened there, Rich.
Yeah, apologies. I've logged out of the link that I clicked on. I'm just setting this up through my channel also, just in case I
Right.
connected
Okay.
the wrong. So give me 2 seconds, but
I
go on, you
knew I should.
continue.
I knew I shouldn't have sent you 2 links at the same time. What I was trying to do was plan ahead, you see. Right. Well, I've left the questions that are hanging because I think you might want to cover them actually, as well as me. So you can hear us all right, can you? Rich has just died there. Well, let's do one. Let's do one that maybe. Anyway, Oak Hearts. What's your thoughts on cold pressed rapeseed oil? Is it just as bad? Yep. Yeah, it's a seed oil, and we don't want seed oils in our life. I know it's sold as sort of a healthy vegetable oil, but I know I fell for it. Locally, we have a lot of cold pressed rapeseed oil, but it's not good. It's not good. Still very heavily processed. And have you got thoughts about rapeseed oil, Rich?
Cold pressed. Yeah, look, it's less oxidized, but it will still oxidize in the same way that all omega-6s will eventually. So it's yeah, it's a no for me. But I completely agree.
Yeah, right. Have we got you on the? Have we got your channel on yet? Have you managed to
I
stream
am.
it to your channel?
Yeah, I'm in the process of doing that now because I think I connected the wrong link.
Okay. Right.
So right now that should be live, I think.
Okay. Well, we'll see. Yep, you're on now. That's good. Good man. Good man. Right. Stefan, if stiffness in older age comes from too much deuterium exposure during life, are daily stretching routines just a waste of time then and can't improve much? Well, there's a lot of assumptions within that question, actually. Stiffness might not be from too much deuterium exposure during life. It could be. There's many other reasons for it. Lack of nutrition. For instance, if you're eating a low-fat or calorie-restricted diet, then your synovial fluids are going to be pretty poor. And if you look at the ligaments, if you look at the joints, if you look at the hyaline cartilage, which is the, when you look at a bit of chicken and you've got that super white, super frictionless area around the bone, that's what we've got around the tops and bottoms of our bones, especially in the knees, for instance. So if you've got a knee joint, and if we move the patella, this bit here at the end of the bone, you should have that hyaline cartilage, and you've got chondrocytes. And many people think you can't regrow the hyaline cartilage, for instance, but you can. It's the chondrocytes that might die, and that's down to nutrition. And if we don't feed our bones properly what they need, if we don't have enough protein, we don't have enough amino acids, then we're not going to make good joints. So I think there's lots of reasons for having joint pain and stiffness in older age. Cofactors are, the synovial fluid, you need fats. So there's a lot going on. Are stretching routines a waste of time? I don't really go for warm-ups before exercising much. There isn't really much science to show that works. Many people get injured in the warm-up before soccer matches, so that doesn't bode well. I think if you feel like you need to stretch before you start, then that's okay. I mean, Rich will have a very different view to me, but as my tutor said to me, if a tiger comes in, you're not going to say, hang on a minute, I'm just going to stretch my quads. We're designed to run away instantly from standing to running away. So I don't think stretching routines are a waste of time because you'll improve your range of motion, your flexibility, and lotion is motion, as they say. But I think there's more to it, Stefan, than just those two things, really. What say you, the Keto Pro?
Yeah, completely agree. I think we're live on my channel now. Apologies, technical issues. The joys of going live when on the road. Yeah, and I'll fill you in more with that now as we go. But Yeah, stretching. It's the stretching part is I'm torn, because I think if you are going to stretch for power, then you reduce the elasticity of that muscle, and that power is removed. If I don't stretch, but by stretching I mean dynamic type of stretching, or maybe the movement in which that I'm going to be performing. So if I'm going to be running, then I will warm up by doing a slow run, a jog. I'll do that with bursts of faster work, and I do find that helps perform, and it does help and allow me to heal and repair and prevent injury. But I'm not a big fan in the standard metric of stretching per se. But it's yeah, it's very much a torn one for me. I understand that stretching for power is going to be a detriment, but if I don't flex those muscles before I do that race, or compete, then yeah, I'm in trouble for a little while after.
Yeah, cool. Okay. You were going to tell me something then. You said we'll get into that a bit later. So what was the problem then?
So I'm away. I'm in Exeter.
Yep.
I have been supporting a friend of mine competing in a men's physique bodybuilding competition. Yeah, I've been away from the arena for, as you guys know, over 2 years. So it was nice coming back and seeing it all. But yeah, this is where I am. I don't think we didn't get the result that we were hoping for. But my friend Johnny, he's not ketogenic or carnivore, by the way. Not that that's got anything to do with his performance, because his condition and aesthetics and pose, everything was spot on, but the class of competitor was incredibly high. But yeah, I'm away, so that's the long and the short. So I'm in the hotel room. I've got my phone propped. I wish I could take a picture to show you. I've got my phone propped up inside a cup, stuffed with tissue, with 3 towels behind it to try to hold it up. But we got there in the end.
Right, brilliant. That's brilliant. Right, Phil. Yeah, just retype your question, by the way, because you said added a question before the start, but it's gone now. Stefan has a follow-up question. Very pale stools mean a lack of bile, right? But doesn't undigested fat rather lead to loose stools by over lubricating and not pale ones? Again, that's sort of 2 different things we're talking about there. If you've got pale stools, yes, you're right, could be a lack of bile, but it could be just an obstruction in the biliary system, for instance. And yes, bile does give poop its brown sort of color. But if you've got undigested fat, that's a very different thing. You're talking about fat now, not bile. And they're 2 different things. Bile is used to emulsify fats. So if you eat fats and there's not enough bile, you might have undigested fat. So that is a different thing that will show up. And that leads to loose stools as well by over lubricating, but not pale ones. So you could still have plenty of bile to give your stool a brown color, but not enough to emulsify the fats. That's the thing. So it's all about how much can you produce and how effective is it. Also, what happens before it gets into your stomach. So if you've got mechanical digestion, that is really good. So you can break down stuff and make it really easy in your stomach. Then your stomach acid breaks down more of the amino acids, and once you get into the small intestine, or the duodenum, duodenum, I think they call it in America. So what happens? You get those little squirts of bile to break down the fats. But you also get bile going into the system for other reasons. I mean, it helps with stomach emptying, and it helps with cleaning out the small intestine as well. So it's not, bile is not just for fats, it's for other things as well. So yeah, I think there might be a question there. Maybe you've got the symptoms. If you've got pale stools, that could be a lack of bile, like I say. What did you want to say, Rich?
No, I just agree with what you say. And the other thing as well is it could be it could be the opposite, an overproduction of bile, because bile is generally reabsorbed in the small intestine, and it can cause issues when it isn't and ends up in the large intestine. So it could be one of two ends of the scale.
Yes.
Usually found, it could be, it's usually found with people gravitating towards the lifestyle, but I should imagine it's the opposite if Stefan is a seasoned ketonian or carnivore, animal-based way of living eater. So yeah, two opposite ends of the scale.
Yeah. Right. We've got Phil Richardson. Is Stephen's voice going to be sore after watching the soccer? Right. What a great question. Yeah, I did watch Liverpool today. Soccer, by the way. We're both in the UK. We could say football. Yeah, I watched my team Liverpool win 3-1 at Fulham. I was quite pleased that Coventry nearly beat Manchester United, but my voice is a little bit sore, more because I'm doing my audible, audiobook of How to Be a Carnivore, which, boy, you have to speak properly or enunciate. Oh, it's great fun. Anyway, so I've used my voice too much today. Stefan, hi. Right. So if anyone's wondering, well, Stefan's getting a lot of questions in. He's got in really early. If you want to sort of jump the queue, you can use Super Chat, or you can just put your questions in early. Rich is a bit quiet today, so we're getting through the questions quite quickly. So if one suspects that a piece of meat, now I think there's a typo here, because it says if one suspects that a piece of meat might have gone mad, but I think bad might be what you want. Does thoroughly heating always destroy all risks, or can one still get sick? Better throw it away. Yeah, if meat's gone off, throw it away. Simple as that, really. I don't know, really. That I have not had that experience, because meat in my fridge doesn't last that long. Oh wow! Do you want to answer this, TLV? What's your favorite album from when you were in your 20s?
My goodness, when I was in my 20s, I couldn't afford to buy albums. How old was I in my 20s? I was just coming out of the 90s phase, so anything 90s based. Yeah, anything 90s based.
Oh, there's no big band or no big album that you really enjoy?
So yeah, there were a lot of. Obviously, this is a highly carnivore and keto diet related question, isn't it? There were a few groups that I was into. Groups like Papa Roach, Linkin Park, Blink 182, Sum 41. But then I did enjoy all the 90s sort of pop stuff as well. Nice, happy, fast beating stuff. But as far as albums go, yeah, I was always too poor to buy an album, unfortunately. So I never bought one.
Right. Okay. Yeah, in my 20s. Don't forget, I'm older than Rich. That was the 80s. I can't remember what albums I bought. My taste was pretty naff when I was in my 20s, I think. I actually can't remember. I genuinely can't remember. Right. I'm really sorry. That's such a rubbish answer. If I think of one later, I will tell you. Gaza, are either of you fine fellows ketoholics? If so, what the hay is ketahol? No idea what this is. R1.3 butanediol.
Yeah, this may be the new type of ketone.
Oh, right. Okay.
Possibly, but I haven't researched it. Yeah, it's ideal in the salts and the esters. I may be wrong, but I'm just trying to read between the lines. But this is this is the one that's sort of sweeping the states by storm. But BHB is BHB. You know, how it works within the body may vary, but it's ultimately, if you're increasing ketones, then you're going to see a benefit. The price, if this is the compound that I think it is astronomically expensive. I certainly wouldn't pay those prices for it.
Is it something that's made within the body, or is it a sort of compound that is chemically altered?
Beta hydroxybutyrate and ketone bodies are made within the body anyway, but I think that this compound possibly, and I may be wrong, I'm just spitballing. I can't remember the brand's name, but they are well known within the exogenous ketone space, and I know that they help supplement winning teams in the Tour de France, for example.
Mm.
But again, ketones are ketones ultimately. But I may be wrong. I may be wrong.
I mean, it's if I just look it up, it's used in plastics and part of a solvent manufacturing. It gained attention in the development of carbon neutral fuels as an alternative energy source. So that's why we've not come across it. I don't think it's anything to do with food or nutrition, really. But anyway, that's an interesting question. Maybe we don't know. Maybe somebody out there knows something we don't know. So that's okay. Right. Let's have a look at this next one. Flam of Fiddler. A flam of diddler. Right. I have days when my eyesight is blurrier than normal. I suspect my correlation that it's related to cheese binging. Any thoughts?
Yes. Yeah, and I agree. It's probably a calcium issue. I find that I'm more prone to blurry eyes, poor eyesight, and migraines if I overconsume calcium. Calcium within the body is excitatory at the muscle, and the muscle needs a ratio of roughly 1:1. When you eat cheese, that magnesium to calcium ratio is no longer there. Calcium increases massively, and it excites the body. It can excite the neurons in the brain in the same way that we do with muscle cramping. If I eat excess amounts of calcium without substituting for equal ratios of magnesium, I get blurry vision. So I completely agree and suspect that cheese could be the contributing factor. Eggs, I eat every day, but they do contain around 25 milligrams of calcium per average egg. So that means if you're going to consume 4 eggs, that's 100 milligrams. Where that calcium is coming from to counter, is anyone's guess, and possibly the best course of action there would be to supplement with calcium. When I take calcium for athletic performance, for example, I always add additional magnesium citrate or glycinate, depending on what type of performance I'm looking for, just to balance that out. If I do not balance it out, I am highly prone to blurry vision and migraines.
Wow. I did not know that about you. Well, I knew about the migraines. I didn't know about blurry vision as a function of electrolytes. And that's quite interesting. I have blurry vision if I'm on the screen too much. Simple as that. And I know I have to just get outside. Like today, I'm actually I was looking at my vision and thinking, yeah, that's not too bad. And I've had the camera on, and I've had my dialogue here, and I've been recording my audiobook, and it was a lot of concentration because you can't mess up when you're doing an audiobook. But my eyes, I think they're pretty clear. I can read most things. So I don't tend to struggle with that unless I have too much screen work. So yes, right. Gazza's filling us in. It was a ketone that allegedly made test mice wobbly, i.e. an alcohol type of buzz. Well, there you go. Good for the mice. I hope they enjoyed the party. Right. Now, this is very interesting. JJ, I think, maybe. Any advice as to doing carnivore with an overload of iron, bloodletting every fortnight? Now, I spoke to Rich in the week about this, not your particular case, but to get an overload of iron, have you got hemochromatosis? So have you got a genetic default? Is that why that is happening? Or are you eating a lot of plant material? Because it's very difficult, if not impossible, to overload on iron with just heme iron. So I think people that do lion, for instance, don't have this problem. I'm not saying to stop doing the bloodletting or anything, just to make that very clear. If you do carnivore, take out the plants, you should see that your iron will normalize. And I think the good thing would be to get a complete blood panel. So your total iron binding capacity and all your ferritin and transferrin and saturation, everything, serum iron, just get everything you can. And, good luck with that. I think, have you got thoughts on this, Rich?
Yeah, after you mentioned that, I began doing some digging. It is incredibly difficult for the body to overload on heme iron. supplementation, plant compounds. Although the argument would be, if you are getting it from a plant compound, obviously the first protocol is to maybe remove that, but adding calcium could confer a benefit in regards to reducing that iron also. But again, we don't want to overconsume calcium, particularly from a supplement form. So this is a perfect case of individuality. Everyone is different. Excess calcium is detrimental to me. But for somebody in this case, maybe consuming more calcium may confer that benefit.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with bloodletting, by the way. I mean, I'm a phlebotomist, so I used to have people doing that to reduce their iron. Mainly men, because obviously women have a period, so that tends to help with iron. Richard, any feedback from your new plain electrolytes? Do people like them? Unflavored. Unflavored electrolytes.
So we've only just released the unflavored. I've had a couple of people come back to me saying that they're not as bad as I was expecting, which has got to be a good thing. Look, the reason that I do a flavored version is because salt in water tastes like seawater. This is what drinking the unflavored is going to be like, and even more so because the astaxanthin, which is the compound that comes from salmon, for example, it overemphasizes that sea salt effect. It tastes like the seaside. It tastes fishy. It's not the most pleasant thing to drink. But this is a product that you guys have asked me for because you don't want to consume stevia. So when I do the flavored, all the flavors are natural. Somebody asked me on Facebook recently, natural flavors don't mean that it's natural. And you're right, it doesn't. Because if a compound is synthetically identical, you can by law say that it is natural when it is not. But you're governed by specific guidelines in regards to the terminology that you can use on products. All of my ingredients are natural. They're not synthetic. The orange comes from orange. The lemon comes from lemon. The cherry berry comes from a fruit called a strawberry cherry. But it doesn't taste like a strawberry. It doesn't taste like a cherry. That's why we've gone with cherry berry. And then we've added the stevia to add a sweet taste because, and if you go onto Amazon, the biggest complaint I have with the electrolytes is that it tastes salty. Well, they are beeping electrolytes. They are salts. What do you expect them to taste like? So we've added this sweet flavor in order to curb that saltiness. And in most cases, it's well accepted. If all you need to do if they're too strong is dilute them further. And it's as simple as that with the flavored. The unflavored do not contain any of those compounds, not even vitamin C. We've even taken vitamin C out. So they contain all of the same ingredients other than the flavors and stevia and vitamin C. And they're actually higher, because we've taken these out, they're higher in iodine as well. So iodine, selenium, molybdenum, astaxanthin, the sodium, potassium, no calcium, and magnesium. Fantastic product for the strict carnivore. They are spot on, but they do taste like salt water. So if you are the type of person not to enjoy drinking salt water, do not buy them and leave me a bad review saying they taste like salt water. The thing with Amazon, and I always preference people buy from the website because I don't make much money on Amazon. They take such a large percentage, but you need to be on there for brand awareness. I understand, the availability next day with Prime and things, but the thing with Amazon is when people leave a comment, I can't go back on and address that comment. So they may say, tastes full of chemicals. There's not one artificial chemical within my product. They're all completely natural, but I can't go back and say that. I'm not allowed to comment. I can't even report that because it tastes like is an opinion. If somebody said it was, then I could go back and report it. But the amount of negative reviews that I've had on the electrolytes recently for either tasting too salty or too sweet, and I can't hit that middle ground. And my biggest fear with these unflavored is that they taste like seawater. So if you can't drink salt in water, then they are not for you. But they are designed for level 5. The level 5 carnivore, the person that does not want any plant compounds within. This is the perfect carnivore electrolyte. If you were level 5, then these are for you. If you were not, then maybe don't try them, or try them and let me know what you think, but don't leave me a bad review.
So level 5 is ultimate carnivore, is it?
Yeah. So this is a friend of mine, Mikey, the athlete, the Ironman athlete that I train with on Wednesdays. Whenever we talk, because we give information out very often that is, it goes against a piece of information that we've given out the day prior. And an example for this is, can I eat nuts on keto, for example? Or let's go carnivore. Let's go carnivore.
Yeah.
Can I eat sliced meats on carnivore? And well, you can, but it doesn't mean that they're best for you. They may contain fillers and binders. So not consuming them would be level 5, but they're still meats. You can consume them. Coming back to the keto argument, can I eat nuts and tomatoes? Well, yes, you can. But then in the next breath, I'm telling people that they shouldn't be eating these compounds because of the phytic acid, the lectins, the cyanogenic glycosides. It's all to do with where you are on your journey. These compounds are all okay if you are at the beginning of your journey or midway down your journey. The deeper you gravitate, the higher the level. And level 5 is the creme de la creme. This is why for you and I, we would be incredibly strict. But these compounds are okay for someone to consume if they are not being as strict as we are. And that's the category that those electrolytes fall into.
Right, cool. Andrew Scarborough, the gentleman, talking about that ketone. It's a metabolic precursor to BHB and a promising agent for cancer research. So we need to do a bit of our homework on that one, really. But the thing is, I just actually take this question off for a second and just make sure that people realize we don't BS. If we don't know, we say. And I'm quite happy to say I've just had to look this up. But I will say, if either of us are in that situation, we will research it. We won't just firstly bluff our way through, and secondly, we will research it, and we'll research it with an open mind. So we now know it's a promising agent for cancer research, and it makes mice go wobbly. So an interesting compound. Right, Wendy Armstrong, do you think shellfish are important for DHA? That's omega-3 fatty acid, by the way. I don't feel I perhaps eat enough of these, talking about fish and shellfish, and would welcome your thoughts. Well, you can get DHA from grass-fed beef, to be honest. I mean, you can get it from meats as well, not just beef. So do you get enough? I don't know, but I don't know your portions and stuff like that. Also, I would say be careful of testing, because if you get some testing done, your results will often come back and it will be in relation to saturated fat that's in your system. And therefore, if you're carnivore, your DHA reading might not be as optimal as you'd like. But that's because it's based on a false premise at the beginning. And I'm actually talking to a lab about this very thing right now to get this cleared up, because it's not an absolute level, you see, it's a ratio. And if you assume that saturated fat from animal proteins is a bad thing, you're going to get a bad score on your DHA. So you might, I'm saying this because I don't know you, Wendy, but this might have prompted your question. If you had a test that says your DHA is low, then they're basing it on somebody eating 60% carbohydrates, not eating much animals, saturated fat, and they're looking at ratios. So just be wary. But I would say you can get it from meats, you can get it from grass-fed beef, definitely. But fish is a good source of protein. So yeah, what do you think, Rich?
Yeah, completely agree. DHA, EPA, both super important. Docosahexaenoic, episopentanoic. We can get this from beef and lamb. It is a good source in sardines, mackerel, salmon. Again, do you need it? It's how much do you need? It's an individual question. I get all that I need from grass-fed beef and lamb. I do enjoy fish, but coming back to levels, what we find is sort of the lion diet is the creme de la creme of the elimination diet. And the reason for this, even living a carnivore diet, people can still suffer with autoimmune issues, intestinal permeability, and other problems, because even within the remit of the carnivore lifestyle, there are compounds that can still cause issues, coffee being one, and the acrylamide being the offending compound in there. We often think it's caffeine, which that affects the glutamate to GABA ratio, but the offending compound is acrylamide, which is accumulative, which means if you don't drink it too often, then it doesn't cause as much of a problem. And then we've got shellfish. That's a known contributing factor to some people. Some people can't cope with eggs because of my goodness, what is it? The ovomucoid, which is a trypsin inhibitor. Some people can't cope with the higher content of the linoleic acid in pork. Pork sits around 20% compared to 2% from beef. Again, there's an argument there in regards to whether it's actually oxidized, because if it's fresh, technically it shouldn't be oxidized. But there's so many things within the carnivore space that can still cause problems. And shellfish is one of the biggest contributors. So I think if you are looking to increase DHA, I wouldn't do it through supplement form, because even omega-3s can oxidize. So we blame omega-6s, the linoleic acid. All oils oxidize over time and incredibly quickly within hours. Testing on cod liver oil and EPA and DHA supplements have shown that in as little as 6 hours, these can become highly oxidized, and therefore they're not contributing as much to the benefit in regards to why you're taking that compound. Always eat fresh. Tinned is also fine, as long as it is kept in brine, spring water, or olive oil. And even then, I would preference against the olive oil. And we can get deeper into that later if you like. But the best source is mackerel, sardines, and then salmon. And then, yeah, those are my top 3. And sardines would probably be my preference personally. They're slightly less fishy than mackerel, but still a fantastic source.
Okay, I'm just going to put this question up, and I'm going to do a share screen, and then we've got an exercise question from Lydia. But I just wanted to quickly do this one. Fit Summer. Hi, how do I know how much fat I have in my meat if I'm doing this right as a percentage? Thanks for the program. I'm a great fan from Barcelona. Well, one of the things I'm just going to share screen, if that's all right with Richard, for the meal plan I offer, but I will just show you. One of the things I've been talking about is doing a reverse engineering meals. So, for instance, I've got a few people WhatsApping me, sending me what they're eating in quantities, and for a small fee, I will analyze their meals and tell them what their fat percentage is. So you've got it here as an absolute amount in grams for their meals, and you've also got all the other things here. You've got vitamin A, C, calcium, iron, everything like that, which is great. And then this person is having sort of 2 meals a day and one meal on a Friday night. So there you go. So then you can click onto this button here. You get a link that does all this, you see. So this person's got 60% fat throughout the day, 37% protein, then a higher fat. And the idea of this is to be guided by them. It's a personalised plan, and they have a weight goal of being 135 pounds or less. So it's sort of a maintenance plan. So that's how you could do it. Just thought I'd quickly show you that. Or you can just use an app, which you can put your. Sometimes you can just scan the barcode, and it will tell you how much fat and protein's there. But I think. I've just been talking to a few people about this, and they really like it coming from what you eat already and having that breakdown. And also, this is much more. There's much more information on what I do on the program I'm using. So, if you're interested in that, there'll be a link in the description. But both Rich and I offer free recipes and free meal plans, and the nutritional information is there, so it's not a case of just trying to flog things to you. I do a meal plan on my website, free. There's a free PDF, but I do think if you really want to know, it's excellent. A lot of feedback I'm getting is they're really liking knowing exactly what the percentage is, what the grams are, what it looks like in a day. So, right. Did you want to add to that, Rich?
No, that's perfect. I did want to chirp in with something really quickly, because this is a question that a friend of mine and a follower of both of ours has asked me on several occasions to speak about during the live, and I've just remembered. And is it okay to cover this really quickly? It's about fiber.
Yeah, do it. Yeah,
brilliant. So we don't eat fiber on an animal-based lifestyle, and we're told that fiber is super important. for many things, gut health being one. But fiber is a subset of carbohydrate, and there is no requirement for carbohydrate within the diet. The body makes all the glucose that it needs through a process called gluconeogenesis. Fiber is an anti-nutrient. It's one of the main driving factors of issues within the gut. But fiber breaks down into a short-chain fatty acid called butyrate, and the butyrate binds to the colonocyte in the gut, and it feeds that colonocyte. But even in a non-ketogenic state, it further breaks down into beta-hydroxybutyrate, which we have rushing through our veins being ketogenic and carnivore. So our requirement for that short-chain fatty acid isn't there anyway. We don't need it, but let's pretend we do. Animal proteins contain other short-chain fatty acids. Butyrate is not the only source of short-chain fatty acids. Animal proteins contain isobutyrate, valerate, and propionate, which have been shown to feed the colonocyte in the gut at a higher rate than the short-chain fatty acid butyrate from vegetables. So we can get this fiber, if we think of it as animal fiber, from animal proteins. Now, the interesting thing with this, I recorded a podcast with Ben Azadi last week. And the reason for this is Ben has been, he's a big advocate of keto. He runs Keto Camp, massive name in the States, in Miami. He did kindly invite me out there to sit on his super posh sofa that he does all his lives on. If I could afford it, I would be out there like a shot. But the reason that I asked him to come on is he believes in carb cycling. So he's a big advocate in being ketogenic, but he also believes in what he calls keto flex. So he did a 90-day carnivore trial, and he paid, I think it was something like $3,500 to have his bloods done before. And I think he did it, and I may be wrong with this. I'll have to go back and watch the podcast again. You may have done it halfway through and again towards the end, but he certainly did it at the end. Now, in the beginning, Ben's gut, his alpha diversity in the gut was really good, which you'd expect for someone living, a ketogenic type lifestyle. His doctor, so he advised his doctor what he was doing, and his doctor told him that he needed to increase grains and fibrous foods to increase alpha diversity in his gut. Obviously, he didn't do any of that. He went on a 90-day meat-based diet, pure carnivore for the 90 days. The results at the end of the 90 days showed an increase in the alpha diversity within the gut, which I thought was absolutely incredible. And this is someone who is a big advocate for keto flexing and circulating or cycling carbs within the ketogenic lifestyle. And he was shocked that basically, there may be a better way. We did go into lipid profile also. I did touch base on the mechanism in which maybe consuming extra fat also can increase cholesterol within the body. Not that that's a bad thing. I don't know if we'll have time to get into that, but if we do, that's a fantastic talking point. Because many people, Paul Mason being one, as publicly said, there's no known mechanism for which consuming fat can increase cholesterol. Zoe Harcoom, who I had on a podcast recently, said the same thing. But I think there is, but I don't think it's a bad thing. But yeah, basically, that's the long and the short. The animal proteins contain other short-chain fatty acids in the form of isobutyrate, valerate, and propionate, which feed the colonocytes at a higher rate than fiber from plants. Our requirement for plant fiber is 0. And remember, fiber is an anti-nutrient. It prevents and blocks the absorption of other essential vitamins and minerals through the digestive process. So I'm hoping that answers his question. If it doesn't, we can come back to it maybe next week. Yes,
because we got questions from the people that have turned up and are live. So let's have a look. Matthew finds eating ox kidney improves his vision in the dark. I assume it's the bioavailable vitamin A. It probably could be. We've got Andrew here. Sometimes people have high ferritin and say they have iron overload, but it could just be an infection and some other issues. Yeah, that's
spot on.
Definitely. I mean, ferritin is what's called an acute phase reactant, and it shows how clever the body is because it locks up the iron in the ferritin. So you don't have high serum iron, you have high ferritin, but it's locked away, so the infection can't live. Simple as that. Andrew, it's not the Andrew Scarborough show, but he's got a very good question for you. Could you not sweeten your electrolytes with glycine?
Yes. So I've looked into glycerol, which is also another sweet fat. Glycine. The problem with these compounds is that they contain a lot of mass. So to add the right volume to sweeten that portion basically means that volume becomes twice as much. And therefore, the ratio of the potassium, sodium, and all the other ingredients in there become diluted to the grammage that you're using, which becomes inferior as a product and twice as expensive because it becomes heavier, larger containers, so on and so forth. There's loads of contributing factors. I've looked into added citrulline malate. I'm a massive fan of because of its ability as a potent vasodilator to increase nitric oxide. I'd love to put citrulline malate in there, but it's too bulky. It's physically too big and too heavy, and this is why we've come down to what I believe to be two of the least toxic natural sweeteners, which are erythritol and stevia. And the amount in there is incredibly small also, by the way. That's important to remember. Yes, they're on there, but they're the last ingredient on there. They are the ingredient that is the least in volume, and it's a tiny little bit that we add. Most of the sweetness within the flavor actually comes from the vitamin C and not the stevia itself.
Yeah, it's interesting, Rich. My mind is working overtime that there's probably a niche market for the Alchemist Electrolyte Company where people do their own little potions, and they understand then that it isn't just a case of put a spoon of that in and take a spoon of that out. But it echoes what's happening in the body, doesn't it? It does. There's so much nuance. It's not just a case of necking an extra bit of salt. You do need some water, and then you need some other things. Anyway, let's not get in the weeds. But I find that particularly interesting what you just said. Gaza, I'm using MCT oil for energy and alertness on days when I eat low fat, just chicken, every other day. Works well, but does the MCT reduce harvesting of body fat at all? I could exist without MCT if that's the case.
So look, this is a double-edged sword. MCT is an incredible compound. So if we look at the fat cell or a cell, the mitochondria is covered by the cytosol, and the fat breaches the cytosol and becomes part of the cytosol within the cell. And it only has the CPT1 and CPT2 transporters to go through until it enters the mitochondria to produce into ATP. Carbs or glucose needs to go through the GLUT4 transporter even to enter the cytosol. So it needs to go through more steps. So fat is our preferenced energy source within the cell. Now, the interesting thing with C8 in particular, or MCTs, but particularly C8, is that it enters the mitochondria immediately. It doesn't need to go through even that process of going through carnitine palmitoyl transferase 1 and CPT2. It doesn't need to go through that. It's instantly converted into ketones. Taking ketones, taking MCT, even in a non-ketogenic state, has been shown to increase fat oxidation to a degree. Now, when you read the research, that would lead one to believe that if I'm drinking MCT every day, then I'm going to burn more body fat. Now, technically, that is true, but to what degree? Is it going to be 1 pound a week, 2 pound a week, so on and so forth? And there are influencers out there who make MCT like I do, who will promote and tell you to take lots and lots and lots. And I believe this to be a silly move. I don't think that we should be doing that, because the opposite, or the extremity to this, is also true. The overconsumption of MCT is going to flood the body with excessive energy, and therefore the body isn't going to create that energy, and we're going to gain. So I still think that we can gain fat even on MCTs. How much? It depends on the person. It depends how active you are. It depends how available your body is to create and convert those other fats through beta oxidation into ketone production. But taking a little bit, especially in a fasted state, is going to increase lipolysis. It is going to increase the body's ability to burn fat. It's certainly not going to slow it down, but if you consume too much, then that could have a detrimental effect. If you co-consume it with beta hydroxybutyrate, it's going to have an increase. There's a synergy between the two, and we're going to have an increased amount of ketone production and fat burning. But again, if you're flooding your body with exogenous ketones to the point where the body no longer requires to use any of the stored body fat, then you're going to gain weight. So you can gain weight on keto. This is how I used to bulk during the bodybuilding days, was I would eat excessive amounts. I would have to consume lots in order to gain that weight. And I'd lose it incredibly easy, but you can still gain the weight. But it's incredibly difficult to gain weight through consuming C8 or MCTs and omega-3s. EPA and DHA doesn't store in the body as well. If you are looking to store, then we need to be looking at the saturated fats. So omega-3s, EPA, DHA are fantastic sources to increase cholecystokinin, for example, which curbs hunger, gives us that satiety signaling, gives us the DHA for the brain. But we don't store that caloric value, if you like, to the degree that we would from other fat sources. So it's a double-edged sword. Consume it and you'll be fine. Over consuming, especially if you over consume it with other fats, then you could be leading to weight gain.
That's brilliant. Now, if you are enjoying this, now last week I mentioned that we've got a thing called the Skool community, and we had 25 people sign up after it. So I'm just going to share the screen so you can see. Right now, you see on our Skool community, people are watching this live stream, this question and answer thing. And here you can join other members who are asking these sort of questions. Rich or myself will always answer. And also there's other members on there putting their 2 pence in, so to speak. There's a classroom as well if you're really interested in learning. Level 1 is free. It's a free ketogenic course, and then there's so many other things you can get. Now, how do you get to these levels? Well, basically, you post things or you like things, give people a thumbs up, and they're not chargeable, so you can get all these things. They've all got free ebooks as well. You can learn about the thyroid, dairy, fruit and veg, protein, problem solving. There's lots of all that sort of stuff. When you get to level 8, you can get my book for nothing. As a freebie, as a thank you for all your activity, How to Be Carnivore, which, like I say, I'm doing the audiobook on for Audible at the moment, and Fat Club, or the Healthy Living Club, which is a daily program with over 8 weeks of material every single day. There's a video with myself and Richard and information, and you can jump the queue if you want. It's just £25 a month. So there you go. There's so many things that's happening in the calendar. There shows you all the live streams. You can check out other members, what they're up to, and the leaderboard. You can see who's doing all the activity, who isn't, and all stuff like that. So that's the Skool community, and there is a link in my description to this video, and you can join plenty of other people with all these questions, and you can ask Rich questions and you'll get answers. You can ask me questions and you'll get answers. Simple as that. Right. Link in the description down below. Rightio, that's the bit to get to the Skool over and done with. Richard, you're very popular tonight. Andy828. Richard mentioned taking different types of magnesium for specific athletic outcomes. Could you expand on this, please?
Yes. So magnesium citrate is the compound that, apologies, I've had to take my headphones out to put the charger in, by the way. I'm on 6%. Citrate is highly bioavailable, considerably more bioavailable than magnesium oxide, for example. Carries a very low bioavailability. So if we look at supplements on the market that contain lots of magnesium, they're quite often magnesium oxide. It's not to say that it doesn't work, but you do need to take an awful lot more to get the same bang for your buck. So citrate is highly bioavailable. The problem with excessive amounts of citrate, and this would depend on the amount of calcium that I've consumed, excess amount of citrate can lead to toilet problems, which is something, magnesium citrate,
yes,
which is something said in your Sean Connery accent.
Yes.
For those of you that don't know, Stephen used to be a comedian, stand-up comedian, by the way. Genuine.
Let's move on.
Anyway. So if I am competing, I don't want to be taking excessive amounts of magnesium citrate, so therefore I will balance it out with glycinate. Excessive amounts is different for everybody. The amount that is in the electrolytes per serving is very unlikely to cause issues unless you're very new. Even the overconsumption of other compounds within the diet can cause problems. Again, we mentioned about the bile issue and not being absorbed in the small intestine, so on and so forth. But calcium, if you were taking calcium supplements, that can also cause problems. But excessive amounts of magnesium citrate can cause issues. So I would use my electrolytes, for example, or the exogenous ketones that I produce for an event. But if I had to take more calcium, because again, calcium does supply energy to the muscle, but we need it to be an equal ratio. If I believe that I've maxed out the amount, then I will take magnesium glycinate. So by being sport specific, it depends on how much I'm going to be straining ultimately, and how hard I'm going to be pushing would determine which form that I would use. I don't make glycinate, so that's not a sales pitch. I don't sell glycinate, but I do buy it for personal use, just to build up the that ratio, so it's 1-to-1 in regards to the magnesium and the calcium.
Excellent. We got 5 minutes. Do you think your phone will last?
Hope so.
Right. Okay. Let's do some quick questions. I want to get to somebody bigging up your electrolytes. So let's answer this one first. TLV question for Richard: is it okay to mix the unflavored with the flavored electrolytes?
Yes. And my initial reaction was, why would you want to? But I can see why now. It's probably to reduce maybe the sweetness in one. Yes. Is the simple answer. You can, should you wish to do so. My preference would be just to dilute, the flavored one more. But again, I guess if you're tracking water consumption, then maybe that's not something that you want to do. But yeah, the simple answer is you can use both.
Yeah, just a little bit of trivia. The reason there is salt in a McDonald's chocolate shake is to make it less sweet, because they won't reduce the sugar. There you go. So just thought you'd like that. Now we've got 2 people here bigging up your electrolytes, and I'm going to read them out because I know you feel shy and you don't want the question and answer session to be a selling session. But let's be honest, if it helps people. TLV: never tried electrolytes until I received some from Keto Pro this week, and they've made a big difference to lifelong cramps. So that's really good. And Landa's there: the flavored electrolytes are a godsend, but the orange, lemon, and cherry berry has triggered my craving for carbs. May have to try unflavored with sparkling water. You see, now that's it. You see, this is the market for people that want unflavored. So Landa's is going to be a customer of yours. So that's good. Right. Andrew is saying eat cod liver oil, but I think you've got opinions about cod liver oil, haven't you?
Yeah, I think what Andrew means, eat cod liver. As in, if you go in to consume cod liver oil, eat cod liver. And the reason I say this is that Andrew and I had we had a deep, in-depth conversation, because I think his way of thinking is along ours in regards to the oxidation process. If you want cod liver oil, eat cod liver.
Yeah, cod liver. Absolutely. I like cod liver. It's surprisingly tasty, and you can get it in tins, or as the Americans call it, you can get it canned. Right. Let's have a look. Question here. I think this might be the last one. What are your thoughts on prolonged fasts, and any thoughts on how long it takes to dial down your basic metabolic rate? So this will be the last question. At 8 o'clock, Richard's got to go, but I will be on the other platform, which rhymes with apple crumble. So yeah, what are your thoughts on prolonged fasts, and any thoughts on how long it takes to dial down your basic metabolic rate?
Look, so in regards to fasting, and I'll be as quick as I can, it's mixed bag. Fasting allows us to put us into a state of autophagy, mitophagy, brown fat activation, lipolysis, and insulin sensitivity, all of which are elicited through just by producing ketones, i.e. being ketogenic. The fact is, we don't need to fast. We can elicit all these benefits through not fasting. And that's what keto is. It's a fasted, mimicked state. So we are trying to mimic that state of fasted through eating the fats. But it's environmental. Ketosis is environmental. It's not a diet. I thrive on eating intuitively. If people are to ask me, do I fast? My answer is no. Having said that, I've probably gone maybe 20 hours today without eating. So, technically that's a fasted state, but I eat intuitively. I eat when I'm hungry. If I'm not hungry, I don't eat. The issue with prolonged fasts too often is, especially in women, it can cause hormonal issues, hair loss, skin conditions, so on and so forth. So I'm not a big fan of excessive prolonged fasts in anybody, but particularly women. And I think prolonged fast occasionally is highly beneficial. We can reach max autophagy within 2 or 3 days if we're ketogenic. For a non-ketogenic person, that can take 6 to 7. So we have half the time it takes basically to reach max autophagy.
I'm a big fan of implementing it now and again. If you're suffering with cancer, so on and so forth. Andrew Scarborough, big advocate of ketones, increasing ketones, and maybe supplementation of so in order to combat these. But eat intuitively. That's the best advice I can give. Don't force a fast. If you're not hungry, don't eat. Eat when you're hungry. In regards to basal metabolic rate, pick a figure. I mean, it's going to be different for everybody. I should imagine as soon as we correct that insulin resistance, then we're going to see improvements incredibly quickly, but it's going to be different for everybody. But think of this as this is a lifestyle. This isn't a quick fix. This isn't something that we want to try to cycle. We want to be predominantly in a ketogenic state most of the time. When we take that away and we're not focusing on cycling and doing these things in particular, then it becomes a lifestyle rather than something that we have to do. A targeted fast. I never force a fast unless I'm looking to do so for a specific reason.
Excellent. So we're going to wrap up there, which is great. We've done an hour on YouTube. Actually, I don't think I've got it set up for Rumble because, the other channel, because your mate's there. Because I knew you couldn't make it. So actually, we're going to wrap up now completely. And I will see you, Rich, on Monday, tomorrow, in the Skool community.
No worries, man. Thank you all. Hope you've all enjoyed. Take care, and I will see you soon.
Bye.